I am smart. I am blessed. I can do anything. I am smart. I am blessed. I can do anything. Have you seen little Aeon? He's 3 years old. Have you seen little Aeon? He's 3 years old. I invite you to YouTube Aeon later, yes? He also made the little Aeon, was 3 years old. He's walking to school. He has his little backpack on. He's clutching his banana, and he is repeating his affirmations that his mom taught him when he was 2. I am smart. I am blessed. I can do anything. I first saw it on the world news tonight, you know, the last 3 to 5 minutes when they've told us how fantastic the world is for the other 25, 28 minutes, and then we get that snippet of some goodness. Not that the rest of it isn't good. And so that's when I met Aeon. I am smart. I am blessed. I can do anything. And he was so sure about it. He made the video made the morning. What do y'all watch? Yeah? Haven't seen it? All right, let's try a transition. How about the Lion King? What's the name of the baboon or the monkey? One more time? Yes. Do you remember the scene when Simba is needing, how many of you seen it recently? Yeah? When Simba is having a little bit trouble remembering who he is, and he's wondering if he needs to return to help out his tribe. And all of a sudden, what's his name? Shows up. All of a sudden. The wisdom holder, the one that's calling forth the remembering and the reminding who Simba is. And he has Simba, what does he do? He holds him up. Oh yeah, the ba-da-da-da. So that's one scene. Yes, but this is the scene where he goes to the water and he shows Simba his reflection. And then that reflection, he sees a picture also of himself, but he also sees his ancestors and his father. And they look up at the stars to remember who he is. And I imagine the many different reasons that you all have your saints here today is because your saints were also and are also people who remind you of who you are. Not the messages you probably get throughout the week that you just need to produce more or your value is in something else besides your true essence. Our saints are those people who remind us of our belovedness. They remind us of our uniqueness, of who we are becoming. They remind us that we are hardwired for connection. In our very DNA, we seek out and need nurturance and love. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to be valued. And I hope and pray that your saints are those people, were those people who engaged in such truth with you. They needed to tell us that we are not alone as we maneuver through this world. To know that we belong in that great family of God. Now, whenever we go about All Saints Sunday, I get a little nervous because sometimes I think we're just going to talk about Mother Teresa, bless her, yes, and Reverend Dr. King, bless him, and I think there's no way in the world I can even get to that level. And yet when we come and we name, presente, our living and saints who passed on, it's a reality check, isn't it? It's a reality check of remembering who we are. Those people who have called us and challenged us to live authentic lives, to live as people of justice, to remind us that's part of our very DNA. DNA, the fundamental and distinctive characteristics or quality of someone or something. So on this All Saints Day, we gather to remember our ancestors. It's a spiritual practice, it's a tradition in all faith traditions, where we remember that we are part of a great web of belonging, that they have gone before us and yet are with us today. We call it the communion of saints, the great cloud of witnesses. Our Jewish sisters and brothers call us the generation to generation. And today as we continue on our worship theme for fall, which is thank you. Grounded. Finding God in the world, a spiritual revolution. We're coming back to the reality that God is not in some far off distant place, but God is right here with us, and God is in our roots. So when we say, where is God? God is right here. God is in that great web of belonging that weaves us together. And yet we know about tangled webs, don't we? Can we get honest about families? We know about tangled webs. Webs are beautiful, but sometimes they are not neat. They can be sticky and messy, and for some, they can be hurtful. They can be dysfunctional. Some of us wrestle with our relationship to our roots and our genealogies. Some of us spend many years in therapy working that through, right? So that we can come back to that core belovedness that we have. We know about DNA that's in our body, as our youth reminded us, about the genes and the chromosomes, right? That give us our propensity for hair color or eye color or maybe height and weight and body type. Yet we also know about the reality of genealogies and emotionality that passed down from generations can be pain and trauma and anxiety and mental health and addiction. What is passed down from generation to generation in my family is that depression, that anxiety, that addiction, propensity towards addiction. So part of our work as a people of God, so as a parent, right? My spouse and I joke, so this month are we putting it into the college fund for our son? We putting it into the therapy fund for our son, right? And I don't say that lightly. But hopefully it's a bit of grace giving that we give one another. Again, we continue to speak out against abuse. This is not a get out of jail free for abuse, yes, and things that are harmful. You all with me? Yes, there's a difference there. Yet part of our ongoing work as people of God is to continue on that journey. If you're looking in your bulletin, it's our second priority that we are becoming. It's part of our wholeness and our self-discovery so that we can name and break those harmful patterns that have been passed down to us by our ancestors, many of them just struggling to get their needs met too, yet didn't have the tools to engage in that. So we know that ancestry is more than pedigree. One of the people that I named was my nephew Eric. Eric died very early in life. He had gotten caught up in that web of addiction and passed on. Part of that web, right? So we have that choice to be a people who know that if things such as addiction or pain or trauma can be passed down to generations, isn't it possible too that we can pass down different patterns? We can pass down the fruits of the Spirit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness. It should come as no surprise to me or anybody else that I'm a Christian minister. My granny had been praying for me for years and years and years for my spiritual upbringing. My parents helped start a United Methodist Church in the Golf and Country Club where I grew up, a little social hall. Christianity is part of the DNA that I've been given. Yes, I will visit other faith traditions, yet I keep coming back to my roots. How about you? What are those roots and traditions that your parents or grandparents passed on? You may have decided that's not for you and you're going in a different path. Parents, here's the reality check for all of us this morning. The greatest influencers on our children's spiritual journey is us. On our greatest influences on our kids, children, and youth spiritual journey are the parents. One of our core values here and priorities is that we are an intergenerational community, that we know the necessity of adults flourishing and thriving in their spiritual journeys. And y'all, this isn't just the parents. This is all of us to come alongside of one another so we can help one another grow and thrive together, so that we are engaging in our own transformation through our God. Last week we talked about Ubuntu. I am because you are because I am. It's where we are woven together. It's where we remind one another, we remember one another into wholeness. The reason why we give thanks that Ruby read through so beautifully all of those names that no one knows how to pronounce, right, in the New Testament is to remind us of genealogies. And I hope that you'll read that whole genealogy in Matthew, and we're wrapping this up. The whole genealogy of Matthew. Did you catch some of those names? There's some folks who struggled a bit. We have Boaz,